Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Today we're going to be going through Ableton demo number 5, and we're just about right there, ready to go for the Haunted House project. But before we get there, I have a little arrangement view demonstration for you. Last time, this should look familiar because last time I had you guys do a little remix of a song that was all set up here in session view. Let me click over here. Session view is all set up. You had all the little clips over here. You were pressing play and whatnot, and then you press record, and then it was showing up over here. Well, now we have a set here that was completely made in arrangement view, and you can tell because there are no little MIDI colorful clips here or audio clips or anything like that. None of the samples have been dropped here. The student who made this project was not taking advantage of session view. It was purely in arrangement view, and that is totally cool. You can do that, absolutely. You don't have to have both. You could do one or the other, in other words. So here we are in arrangement view. First off, what we're looking at here is a very condensed view of our arrangement. You can see our different tracks here, but you can't really see what it is. Is it MIDI? Is it audio? What is it? First off, you have over here, these are the same tracks that you see here in session view. I'm pressing tab to go back and forth here. These are the same tracks, just a different way of looking at them. Over here we have these tracks, and now these arrows right here, these little arrows right next to it, will expand the track so you can actually see what's inside of it. So if I expand this first one, you'll see that we do have audio waveform here. If I expand the second one, then so on, you'll see that what we have inside of them. Having them like this is really handy to look at your whole arrangement, because maybe your arrangement is 100 tracks or maybe 50 tracks or something like that, and you imagine 50 of these little tracks going all the way down. It's a lot easier to kind of see your track as a whole that way. But when you're trying to edit and stuff, it's a good idea to have them open. So you could click them one by one, or another way is you could hold the Alt key on your keyboard, which is right next to your space bar, and then hold Alt and then press one of these, and it will expand all of them at once, which is pretty handy. So now we're looking at the arrangement. You can see that it is indeed all audio. This was made entirely from samples and sample loops. Okay, so let's go ahead and give a little listen here.
Hey, talking to you.
Very cool stuff. This student did a really excellent job. Remember, if you remember from the last demonstration when I was showing you how to make a remix of that song, I told you it's just as important to take parts away as it was to add parts. Well, you can see this is a very, very beautiful example of that. He starts off with just the piano part and then brings in a drum beat and then starts adding in this other little percussive element down here, and then has the two drum beats, two loops layered that are really complementing each other, and then he drops one of them out. So then you hear just these ones. And then he brings in this like crackling record player sound, and then he brings back both beats in and has this other, so he's like giving you a little preview. He brings in one thing, then he brings in another thing, and then he brings in another thing, takes one of them away, takes another one away, adds something new with everything, pretty much only the original piano loop playing, brings everything back in at once, drops one of them off here, and then everything drops off. You get this record player thing again. Then you have the little sample that says, hey, I'm talking to you, right before it goes back into the piano loop and adds in this little percussion thing, which is like the little sticks thing, and I'll show you that in a second, and then brings back in the original beat again. And then here you go, you can see right here, he's got this beat going still. He drops out the percussion thing there, and then, the sticks percussion thing there, and then drops the main beat off, but then brings that back in. So as I'm going through, I'll show you, we're going to go through this song, and I'm going to show you some handy, really handy buttons when you are making your own tracks here. First of all, you'll notice that when I click around here, well, up here first, this is called the scrub area, and this is how you can see I have this little speaker, a little picture of a speaker. My mouse clicker has turned into a little speaker, and this is a way that you can jump around in your song really quickly. But you'll notice if I'm playing it and then I jump to another place, it waits a little bit. It waits until it's going to come in on time. And this is one of the things that Ableton does, because if you're using this live, you don't want to have your song skip all of a sudden, because it could be really unpleasant sounding. See right there, the green arrow. It's going to wait until it comes in on time. The way we can disable that, if we are not using this in a live setting, then you don't really need that. And it's kind of like, sometimes for me, it's kind of annoying to have to wait for it every time I want to jump to a new part in a song. That is controlled by this little guy right here. It says 1 bar. It's quantized to 1 bar. And quantized means that it's going to wait until exactly when it would be in that same place, but in a different bar. So like beat 4, if I click here, and then I press here, it's going to wait until we're on a beat again, so that it doesn't sound like anything has skipped really. But we can turn that off. Well, you have a lot of options here, how quickly you want it to operate or how slow you want it to change. But if we just go to none here, then we can just jump around. Yeah, and that's handy when you're just creating an arrangement and you're not doing live. So with that on none now, we're going to go ahead and take a look here. One of the things I think really cool, you notice here that this says 116, right? Well, we know that when you have these loops that they often, well, pretty much always, they have the BPM, or the beats per minute, which is controlled up here. You can see that he's chosen 90 for all of these ones, and that's because most of these, if you take a look at them, or you look over here in the title, well, that one's actually 105, but this one's 90, this one's 90, this one's 90, this one's 90, this one's 90. Most of the samples he chose were 90. But which is interesting is that this one appears 116. So if we play this and we just focus on only the keys, and the way I'm going to do that, which is instead of just clicking over here, let's say if I want to listen to only just the keys, I want to listen to this one track, and I'm playing everything. I'm playing like right here in the middle. This button here is, the S stands for solo, and you solo the track, which means that all the other tracks are going to be quiet as long as that this solo is engaged. So if I click on that, now it turns blue here, and you see that all the track numbers have become this gray color. Okay, so you don't hear any of the percussion. But if I turn solo off, now there they are again. Solo on, solo off. And the same thing goes for if I want to solo this track. There, we're listening to just the drum track. It's going to cut out because the drum track has stopped going right there. So let's listen to it again. Got the drum track, and then now I want to listen to that second drum track. Now we're soloing this one. This is really useful to kind of hear, like, you know, all the different aspects of what's going on. You can break it down, because there's a lot going on there, right? Solo this one down here. Now we hear just this one. Okay. So if you're ever playing your track, this will happen a lot when you're first getting used to it, is that you're like, whoa, how come I can only hear this one track? Well, chances are it's probably soloed. So you're going to want to always check over here and make sure that solo is disengaged. Okay. Another important thing we need to know when we are operating over here is you see how each track has these numbers. As long as the number is gold, that means that the track is on. You can actually turn off these tracks so that they don't produce any audio by clicking on these numbers. I'll show you here. I have turned off the piano loop. I have turned off my drum loop now. Now only this one is playing. If I can move up here, it's going to play all these other ones you can see, and it shows us that there is audio there, but it's been muted basically, meaning that there's no audio is allowed to come through, so we don't hear it. So you do always want to check over here and make sure that all your tracks are indeed on, so we can hear everything. Going back to this loop up here, though, something I thought was very interesting about this is that this is it says 116 and we're in 90, and this is his main piano. This is like the hook, right? This is the main piano loop, or the main loop that you're focusing on for the musicality in the song. And if you solo it and you just listen to it, has this kind of unnatural, kind of low quality, lo-fi kind of feel to it. And a big part of that is because it's so much slower than it was originally recorded at. This loop was recorded at 116, and here we are in 90. So let's go ahead and turn this up to 116 just for a second to see what it was actually supposed to sound like. Right, much faster. But it doesn't have that kind of like volume increase, decrease thing, that kind of like wonky kind of feel to it. Maybe a little bit. But it is just so exaggerated when you go over here and turn this to 90. Now we're going at 90 again. And I think I like the loop a lot better at this speed. So just because you find something at a certain speed does not mean you can't use it, because you can always change it and just see how it sounds, which is a big, and this is something we're going to experiment a lot with in your first project. So we'll go ahead and hit unsolo so we can hear the whole track. Here we have that the record scratch noise, the fuzz.
Hey, talking to you.
Great. Then brings back the beat. Okay, so I want you to come over here. I want you to open this up and listen to it. Listen to the different parts. Practice soloing the different parts. Hit solo on all of them. Turn them on and off. Things like that. And then what I want you to do is also kind of rearrange things. When we're in this view, you can see that we have all these different chunks here of the audio. And the way he did it too, he could have just, like right here, how I have this whole loop that is stretching this far. You can go to either side of a clip here, and it gives you that little bracket, and that allows you to resize it. Okay, so you can make it as big as you want it to be. The original loop was this big, so what he did was he probably right click and copied it and then just pasted it, right? Now the way you could do that is by, I believe it's hold control. Yeah, if you hold control and then click with the mouse, bring it over, and then let go of the mouse first, then you can really quickly copy stuff. When it is in loop mode, you can also, when it is in loop mode, which you can see down here, and if you double click on these, you double click on or click on any of these clips, and you have this window down here open. This should look familiar. This is just like, over in session view if we were looking at the audio. We can see here that is originally a 2-bar. It is a 2-bar clip here. And in loop mode, if you were just to stretch it out like this, it will actually just continue that loop, and it will treat it like it's one clip here, rather than if you had it like this, then if you move one of these, you're only going to move one of the little chunks. So there's just different ways of doing it. You're going to get this is going to sound exactly the same as if I just stretch this out. So now I'm dealing with one big clip here instead of, you know, the smaller chunks like these ones over here. It's going to sound the same, but it's useful to kind of, if you know that you're going to have a big chunk, why work with so many little chunks when you could just take the bracket here and just copy that over that. And it's kind of hard to see, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be just fine with that. Okay, so I think that covers it for this demonstration. So play around with this, listen to it, try to rearrange it, because you have all these pieces here, but you could totally change it up. You could speed it up, you could slow it down, you can take parts out, you can do all kinds of things with this. So enjoy.